Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Wednesday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky. The Lakers drop the season opener, not the preseason one, the actual season opener, 121-114 at Staples Center to the Golden State Warriors. They're now 0-4, Andy, in the LeBron James era in season openers. Is there anything that people should worry about? Russell Westbrook didn't look good. We'll talk about it next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Want to thank everybody for making Locked On Lakers your first listen of every day. I hope you were able to go to sleep last night. If you're a Lakers fan, not particularly freaked out by what happened, so you're waking up with this podcast as opposed to something else. It was not, Andy, a great start for the Lakers on Tuesday night in the opener against the Warriors. 121-114, the final score. LeBron looked great. AD looked great. But if you are one of those people who is more suited to worry, you got the whole checklist of stuff from Tuesday's game.
It was really interesting. And Westbrook is going to be his own conversation point later. But just to set the table, he had a pretty brutal debut, 8 points on 4-13 shooting, missed all 4 of the threes that he tried, had 4 turnovers against his 4 assists, and minus 23 in 35 minutes. And I thought,
which is kind of hard to do.
Yeah. I mean, it's arguably the most impressive thing that he did during this game. And I thought over the course of this game, Westbrook actually grew more visibly uncomfortable. A lot of theories about how that happened. We'll get into that. What I thought, though, was really interesting about the game, Brian, is just the idea that it was confirmation bias, getting a little bit into what you were saying, with concerns and I think some optimism that people had heading into this season. There was a lot that shook out sort of as predicted in this game.
Well, to some degree, like the guys have been telling us, the guys on the team, the actual Lakers players have been telling us what was coming. I don't mean it in a way that they don't think they're going to win games, that they can't win games, that they shouldn't win games. But the idea that this is going to be a work in progress is something that they have emphasized throughout the preseason. And, to your point, Andy, trying to figure out what is kind of meaningful from Tuesday's opener. And, reminding people that, look, they lost to the Clippers 2 years ago in the opener. People were really upset about it, a little bit panicky about it. And then they basically didn't lose again for another 6 weeks. They lost last year in the opener and I think we went 21-5 after that until the wheels fell off with injuries and stuff like that. So, obviously one game isn't necessarily the be all and end all here. But yeah, I mean, there were some like legitimate things that you could look at defensively. There were some god awful moments. They gave up 68 points in the second half. 68 points.
I mean, we've spent a lot of time talking about how this roster, at least on paper and maybe in actuality, is going to be a massive test of Frank Vogel in terms of the idea that he is that good of a system guy, that good of a communicator, that it doesn't matter the players that he has. He can make a defense work. Granted, this was difficult to do with the guys they've had in and out of the lineup. But, it's saying something that Avery Bradley ended up being inserted into the game with about 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Nobody saw this coming, including, by the way, Avery Bradley.
Yeah. He played about 8 minutes overall. But Frank Vogel said before the game, he was asked about Bradley's availability, and he said, he is available. I don't think he's going to play,
right? But
he's available,
right? And it speaks to just the idea of looking for something defensively, because Frank Vogel loved Avery Bradley's defense the year that he was with the Lakers. He talked a lot about in the preseason open competition and having not made up his mind who was going to be in the starting 5. It was incredibly obvious from about 20 minutes into the preseason that Avery Bradley was going to be one of those dudes. But before we even get into some of the other trouble areas, I'm even talking about confirmation bias with the things that you thought could actually be good
Yeah, and
with
and
this
and
team.
hold on to that though, just because I don't want to ping
Okay.
pong too much back and forth. But it's important to point that out. There was a lot of stuff in here as well that people could look at and say, "All right, I could see where this is going." And once it's put together in a way where you have the lineup intact, Kendrick Nunn didn't play tonight. THT and Trevor Ariza obviously out, and things like that. Wayne Ellington unavailable as well. It wasn't all bad. It wasn't like a train wreck in that way. But sticking with some of the stuff that didn't work here for a second, defensively there were concerns about Carmelo Anthony. Can you get by with big minutes for Melo? Melo played 26 minutes tonight and struggled, I think it's fair to say, defensively, despite the fact that he was playing most of those minutes with either LeBron or AD or both.
Mhm.
So they were protecting him as much as possible. Malik Monk had a burly night, I thought,
It's
defensively.
really ironic, actually. The best moment for either one of those guys defensively came together. They got back on a 4-on-2 break, the Lakers giving up the numbers, and they managed to disrupt it, break it up, and the Lakers ended up scoring on the other end. And it was just emblematic of very little to look for from those guys defensively. Like they both used up their moment together.
Right. It was a shame. It was inefficient. You only
Yeah.
have one crack at this thing, and they and
Mhm.
they and they used it up. I mean,
Mhm.
overall, the final shooting line for the Lakers was, they finished 15 of 42 from 3-point range, which is about 36%, which was fine. That's not going to hurt them over the course of the season, but it's a little misleading. Anthony Davis hit a kind of a meaningless desperation three, like a 360 pirouetting sort of deal. Um, Late in the
The only
fourth,
one
and
he
then
did.
Malik Monk hit a basically what amounted to a buzzer beating three to close the gap to 7. He should have taken a 10-pointer there, Andy. It would have been much more effective, rock and jock style. So overall, they did not shoot the ball well from 3-point range. The free throw shooting continued to be a problem. The Lakers were 9 of 19 from the free throw line. As we've discussed last year, frequently you can be bad from 3-point range. You can be bad from the free throw line. You can't do both.
Okay, I'm
That's
just
not
going
a
to
good
ask the
formula.
question. AD 2 of 7 from the line.
What's up?
Continuing this question, yeah, the hell, man.
Dwight
I
went
mean,
3 of 4 for God's sakes.
well, Anthony Davis has been a really good free throw shooter for the overwhelming majority of his career. And as much as, I've made the point that AD has this reputation as a floor spreader that I just don't think is really deserved. Like he looks the part more than he actually is.
Yeah,
He's
the ball
legit.
looks nice out of his hands from
Yeah,
3-point range.
he is legitimately, though, good at shooting free throws, or has shown evidence of that. I don't know what's
Up
going on,
until
but he
last
needs to
year,
figure.
he was an
Yeah,
80 something percent guy.
yeah,
And look, he is an AD is a floor spreader, and he showed it tonight. Davis, I thought, other than the free throw shooting, looked great. And as we can sort of change the subject here in a second, but like um he is a legitimate floor spacer in the sense that I have no problem with him using his size advantage. He did it against Draymond Green a lot on Tuesday. He did it. He just tortured Juan Toscano Anderson doing this. Just rising up and taking a mid range
sure.
jumper
Yes,
that nobody can block, and he's very
yes.
smooth with it. It's very efficient, and he takes it with confidence, which is that is a floor spacing activity. And if you're looking for positive stuff, I thought the way AD came out 15 to 26, 33 points, 11 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 blocks. He was assertive. He was, if anything, a little bit too assertive. Try to, throw lobs to Dwight and DeAndre Jordan a couple times. It's like, maybe we don't need as much of that, but putting the ball on the floor, playing physically, I thought, generally speaking, on both sides of the ball. I thought he continued that the approach and the look that he had in the preseason, which was really encouraging. Like there was a lot to like there. And
And LeBron looked like LeBron.
LeBron was incredible. 34 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists, a steal, a block. Honestly, I was a little worried that he was doing too much defensively. His backside, weak side help was incredible. He bailed the Lakers out a bunch of times defensively. So there was a lot to like there. And next, let's talk about sort of the team stuff before we get to Russ, because Russ really is his own conversation. The defense was a struggle, the shooting was a struggle, all that stuff. But there was, like you say, Andy, a lot of good things to point to where you could say, "Oh yeah, I see why this could work," and we'll talk about it next.
Locked On Lakers brought to you by Sweatblock. There are a few things in life just not fun to talk about. One of them is excessive sweating. Like when you are sweating through your shirts for no reason whatsoever, it's
Like, am I
embarrassing.
going to have to play Avery Bradley in this game? Type of sweating.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't blame Frank Vogel for worrying about that. And, I don't want to have to worry about it either. And that's why I use Sweatblock antiperspirant wipes. Stronger, more effective than most clinical antiperspirants. You just apply it at night before bedtime. Next morning, you wake up, you wash, you go about your day without having to worry about sweat. Once or twice a week, you can use it, stay dry the whole time, guaranteed your money back. So there's no more pit stains, no more picking out your wardrobe based on what hides the sweat better. And I'll put it to you this way. If you know of a sweat solution, another one that is doctor created, doctor recommended, featured on Rachel Ray's show, tested by firefighters, I'm open to this, but since it doesn't exist, check out Sweatblock. Get it today for
Mhm.
20% off at sweatblock.com using the promo code locked on or at Amazon and CVS.
Yeah, it's so hard to tell too. What. Yeah, defensively, the Lakers had combinations of players out there that are not likely to play with each other with a full complement of players. You're not going to see Rondo and Westbrook in a backcourt together very often. I think Rondo, Westbrook, and Melo were on the floor for like that is not a recipe for a good defense.
Who says Vogel doesn't have a spirit of YOLO?
That's right. That's right. So there were certain combinations that we saw on Tuesday that are not going to happen ideally. That said, and Golden State, I think, exposed the things, specifically the Lakers you would expect to be bad at in terms of rotations, backside thing, because they move a ton, they pass a ton, they are, constantly doing that stuff, and that requires extra rotations and more communication and all that stuff. And the Lakers aren't there yet. Whether they get there or not, I don't know, but they're certainly not there now.
No, absolutely not. They don't have that synergy going. They didn't have the continuity I think that they really needed in the preseason to, sort of punch above their weight in terms of what you would expect for this team and some of the skepticism that's been out there defensively. Skepticism that, by the way, is very much earned and understandable. I will say this though, in terms of looking for things that were promising defensively with this
Mhm.
team, I thought Ken Bazemore did a terrific job
Yes.
shadowing Steph Curry. He did a really good job making him work. He was really active. Steph had a 21, 10, and 10 triple double, but he was 5 of 21 from the field, 2 of 8 from 3-point range, turned the ball over 4 times. And it was not all Kent Bazemore, obviously, but a lot of it
No,
was.
he played a very straight. He did what you would
Yeah.
need Bazemore to be doing. Is plus 10, 31 minutes. He was a plus 10. Again, plus minus in individual games
And
is
he was just
can be
this.
a misleading statistic, but when your team loses by 7 and you play 31 minutes, and he only accounted for 8 points. It's not like he was pouring stuff in himself. And you're a plus 10, you are likely having a strong impact on that side of the ball.
It's interesting too to say this about somebody like Steph Curry, who is, as difficult a guy to cover in the entire league and one of the best and most unique scorers you're ever going to see. He's actually, I think, a pretty good matchup for Bazemore. I mean, beyond the fact that Bazemore, I'm sure, is really familiar with him from having covered him so much in
Right.
practices with
Literally.
Golden State.
Right.
Like, size wise, he actually can be a little bit more imposing on Curry than he might be against some of the wings that I think over the course of the season you're going to be looking for from Bazemore. And he's so energetic when he's out there. And he's one of those guys that is totally cool with never stopping moving. Like he's got some KCP in him that way.
Yeah, and I will say this. This is something that occurred to me during the game because the Lakers really are going to be relying. They don't want LeBron to have to do this, so you certainly don't want LeBron to have to do it. And you are in a position where Bazemore is often going to be that guy because he is very versatile defensively. He can guard guards like he did with Curry. He can guard wings, where he's going to be guarding the best player on the other team frequently.
Mhm.
They also want him to shoot 40% from 3-point range. Those are difficult things to do at once. You use a lot of leg running around defending the best player on the other team. Now, they don't want, and Bazemore, we talked to Sam Esfandiari and Andy Liu over the course of the season, our scouting report for Bazemore, and they were like, he's going to do two things every game, have 2 or 3 possessions where you're like, what the F was that? And they were definitely there on Tuesday. But, so if you can limit all the other stuff, hopefully it's catch and shoot and whatever. But it is a tall order to both be a great shooter and chase
Look,
the other
man,
guys around defensively. But and
there's a
that's the role they
reason.
need him to play.
There's a reason that Mikal Bridges got $90 million from the Suns, with an owner that is loath to spend if he can avoid doing it.
Yes.
A guy who is that good on both the 3 and D end of that equation
Yep.
is going to get himself paid. And
About 22 million's worth. Yeah.
yeah, and Bazemore is not at that level of Mikal Bridges. I mean, he's one of the best in the league at doing this sort of thing, but just being able to do both of them, reasonably well on a regular basis against good competition. We've
Right.
talked about this before a lot, Brian. Like Kent Bazemore, I don't think is the 4th best player on this team, but
Fourth most
he is the
important.
4th.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the 4th most important.
And so, let's look at some other positive things, and maybe we'll wrap up with Russ because he really does deserve his own segment here. There were stretches. The score doesn't indicate it, and certainly the way the game got away from them in the second half doesn't indicate it. But Lakers pushed the lead out to 10 a couple times in the second half, I believe. And the way they did it reminded me not of Golden State at their heyday in the sense that it was boom 3, but like all of a sudden, but it was fast. It was like it was a 2-point lead. Now it's a 10-point lead, and it happened in like 40 seconds. And the way that it happened was stop, push, score, force a turnover, score, like where they could get stops and moving up the floor quickly. They did it very well, I thought, early in the game in terms of playing at that pace that Vogel and the group generally has talked about trying to play at. And in those moments where it worked, even in the second half, you got a sense, or at least I did, Andy, of like, oh, okay, like they could have 2 or 3 or 4 minute stretches where the offense is overwhelming, particularly if it comes in combination with good defense.
Look, man, this team can attack the rim so well and create so much pressure that way. They are really physically imposing. If you look at them on balance from top to bottom, they're really athletic. I mean, especially their 3 best players are 3 of the more athletic players in this league.
For a senior Olympics,
right? Yeah, I mean, you put
for
them
the
out
over
there,
55 league,
dude. You put them out there in the speed walking, like nobody can touch those guys. I mean,
side note: our dad,
yes,
medalist,
yes,
speed
yes,
walking.
he is.
So kudos to Dad.
I'll tell you, if for the people listening to this that are in LA, you go to the Beverly Center 5 a.m., you will see the big 3 mall walking.
That's right.
At their fastest pace possible, man. It is that you really recognize what great athletes are when you see LeBron, AD, and Russ, walking by some jewelry store in the Beverly Center, arms
Skechers,
going
wearing their
as quick as possible.
Skechers.
Yes,
Here's
wearing their
I will say
Skechers.
this: I make the little joke about our dad.
Elevator music cranking in the background.
That's right. Being a senior Olympic caliber speed walker, and he's actually in really good shape. And
never realized LeBron
thankful.
was such a Christopher Cross guy.
I know.
He loves it.
But like the difference is, Dad's in his 70s,
Mhm.
well into his 70s now, and has given up any kind of running or something like that as a power walker. I'm in my mid 40s, and I've discovered that I now run so slowly when I try to jog that I actually am better off from an exercise standpoint trying to walk really fast
Mhm.
because both my heart rate is higher and it's slightly less embarrassing. So that
My
is not
thing
something I'm proud of.
My thing that I do because I cannot jog. Like I really just can't do it. I try like during the pandemic because gyms
It's
were
either
closed, all that stuff.
sprinting or nothing.
Well, no, I tried taking up running again, and I just discovered it was killing my
It
back.
hurts.
It was killing
Yeah,
my knees.
not
Like
worth
I can't. I have bad knees
I
anyway. I've
can't do
had
it
knee
either.
surgery. Like I can't do that stuff. We have a trampoline in the back, I go out there and for like 30 or 40 minutes, I just jog on the trampoline.
Yeah. I
Like that.
actually I do one of those pole workouts that they do in a lot of the gyms, you know?
No,
You never heard
I
of that? No,
actually
like, you've never
no
s
fucking idea what you're talking about.
really? You've never seen that, like, where they do, like, the stripper pole workout thing? Like,
Oh,
oh, yeah.
stripper pole.
Yeah,
Okay,
the pole workout.
I thought you were talking about something completely foreign and different.
No, no, no.
Now I'm just disgusted.
Right, as is the audience.
Yeah, yeah.
So anyway, but, like, the
At
point
least
being
they're not
here.
related to you, though.
Right.
That's a double whammy.
You should see what I wear.
Ugh,
Uh,
Jesus Christ, man!
so look, I mean,
Some people are eating
Fan
breakfast.
if you're a Lakers fan, Tuesday was not fun.
No,
I'm not
no,
gonna
it's like watching you pole dance.
it might be less. Might be less. It might have been less fun. I'm not gonna try to pretend that this was a great debut for the 21-22 Lakers that should make everybody feel great about what's coming. But it wasn't, I think, the sort of unmitigated disaster that it might be presented. I actually thought Lakers Twitter was relatively calm about this, at least in the moment. But the thing that really sticks out was Russell Westbrook, because all of this happened in the context of AD playing great, LeBron playing great, and Westbrook playing about as bad a game as I think you possibly could come up with, where he doesn't get hurt. And it was kind of fascinating, and there was some really interesting insight into why, and we'll talk about that next.
Locked on Lakers brought to you by Built Bar, the best tasting protein bars ever. Bars covered in 100% chocolate, soft, easy to chew. Very excited. A new batch just arrived at our house today, so going to be digging into those soon. They're healthy. They're
How did
great.
you get a new batch? I haven't gotten a new batch.
Well, you know why? Because I didn't make the Built Bar people watch me pole dance, and then they.
I mean,
didn't-
it's the workout. That's where I need my protein.
You know what? I don't think they want you to be in shape. It's not worth it that much. They're great for the keto folks. They're low calorie, they're low sugar, high protein, high fiber, and they taste great as always. Original flavors like coconut almond, salted caramel, banana bread, new flavors like lemon almond cheesecake, cookies and cream. They are perfect for someone like me who wants awesome taste combinations, really unique, fun. So go to BuiltBar.com, use the promo code LOCK15. You get 15% off your first order. Again, promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at BuiltBar.com.
Locked on Lakers also brought to you by BetOnline.ag. Football back better than ever, and a new web interface to start the basketball season, Andy, with even more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the basketball and football action this season. Head over to the new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today. Receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use the promo code Locked On to receive that bonus. From basketball, football, baseball, postseason going on, Dodgers still in it. What a remarkable comeback that was.
Amazing.
Cody Bellinger, who knew? NHL, boxing, UFC, down to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait. Take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. It was a storybook beginning for Russell Westbrook in the sense that the story was interesting and compelling, and you kind of couldn't turn away from it. But it was not a fun story to read or a fun story to watch in that regard. Westbrook was terrible on Tuesday.
Yeah, he really was not good. It was interesting because over the course of the preseason, both of us thought that he was actually looking more comfortable. He was growing more efficient. The sixth preseason game was by far Russ's best, and that
No
was
question.
coming off a game 5 that had been his best. This was a pretty close to an unmitigated disaster.
What was mitigating it? If there was anything that was sort of prevented it from being unmitigated,
He was
what would
part,
you
he was
point
part
to?
of a few good sequences. He set up a few guys on some nice passes. I mean, stuff like that. I mean, you can take some individual moments and say that was nice as long as you're not, I guess, looking at everything else that happened.
He didn't score in his own basket.
I mean, he didn't play well. I mean,
Nice great pants, bright red
well,
pants.
he's always got
Dressed
that
well.
going. And Russ was in a very mid-season form after the game when it comes to saying as little as humanly possible
Yeah.
to the media with each question he was asked, which whatever. I mean, it's
But you know what? I actually think that was important because he was disappointed. He was really, you could tell he was visibly disappointed during the game and upset with how he was playing, and particularly even after the game, I thought was just like that this was not what he like. One of the things that's going to get people be frustrated by Westbrook are nights like tonight. He is a notoriously slow starter to most seasons. And obviously Tuesday was indicative of that. But one of the things that's going to get people to appreciate Russ is the level of care that Russ has. He cares deeply about this stuff and being good and being competitive and playing well and winning, and sucked in the opener. And it bugged him. And guys, his teammates talked about that. I don't think he wasn't being standoffish. I felt like
well,
post
he
game.
was being standoffish in the sense that that's what Russ does after a game where he gets a triple double. That's all I
Correct.
meant.
But
That we
but
saw him in. That's all I meant was just that we saw him in mid-season form when it comes
I
to
just wanted to
that
point out
relationship with the
I wanted
media.
to point out the contrast because I don't think this was Russ just doing his normal media thing. I think this was Russ being really disappointed in what he did in his first game in LA. Family, I'm sure, is there. Everyone's watching, high expectations, wants to perform. And I know, Andy, we listened, we were in on the post game stuff, and like AD talked about it, LeBron talked about it. Like they kind of had to pick Russ up after the game.
Yeah, it's interesting. You and I were texting during the game, and we were talking about Russ's struggles. And I said to you, like, I don't want to play armchair psychiatrist necessarily, but I imagine he is pretty nervous during this game, and he's dealing with a lot of jitters. Like, this is a really big deal for Russell Westbrook. He's an LA guy, grew up watching the Lakers, grew up, became a fan through the Kobe Shaq teams, and he's playing for his, basically like his childhood has come to life in terms of like the dreams, in terms of what you picture for yourself. And like you said, family there, friends there, knowing this is such
Right,
a big
exactly.
deal. And even though he's been in the league for this long, and even though Russell Westbrook has as much don't give an F as any professional athlete we've ever been around, he's human. And both Anthony Davis and LeBron confirmed those suspicions that I had. Like LeBron literally used the phrase first game jitters. And I think, and especially because as the game went along, he looked worse, like as opposed to sort of getting his groove. I think more I think more and more of that stuff just started getting to him.
Yeah, I mean, look, minus 23 in 35 minutes, which actually improved slightly over the last couple. Again, the Lakers had a couple meaningless three pointers at the end of the game and stuff like that. It, it's it was it was sort of hard to watch, and whether Russ cares about what we think about, like him or how he dresses or how he plays or all this other stuff, there's no question he is extraordinarily aware that he is the intruder here. Like the Lakers absolutely positively could have gone into the season with LeBron and AD and Buddy Hield or something and been a title contender. Russ is the injection of uncertainty and the injection of potential disaster in what could be, and he knows that. And what they all talked about it. Like Russ needs to be Russ and go out and be aggressive. And the best moments he had were at the beginning of the second half, where he just attacked the rim. There wasn't much of it. One layup he missed, one layup he made, but he attacked the rim. And finding that balance between playing like Westbrook while kind of avoiding his worst tendencies. Like 35 minutes, 8 points, not that good, but he took four threes, most of which I thought were pretty responsible.
Oh yeah.
And he only took 13 shots. It's not like he went out and was 4 for 25. So like what's the right balance here is going to be tricky. And kind of it felt like his teammates are trying to give him permission to play like Russell Westbrook. and to not worry about it. But figuring out how to do it and getting it done is. I mean, I wonder too. Like, do you think his road splits early in the season will be better than his home splits? It's certainly possible.
That'll be interesting to look at. I hadn't thought about that before this, in terms of something to look for, but that will be
Just
actually pretty
playing away
fascinating.
from LA
Yeah, I
might
mean,
be, which by the way is not terribly helpful because like 80% of their first, month is at home.
yeah,
But
and I mean, and he's
and
there's still
I'm probably reading way too much into it, but you understand what I'm
no,
getting at.
actually, I don't think you're necessarily reading that much into it. I mean, and part of why I think you may not be is just like how surreal is it going to be for him just wearing a Laker uniform, period?
Mhm.
Because that could be one of those things that sort of offsets the idea of getting out of LA, just playing as a Laker in front of strangers. Like, if just the idea of, holy shit, like, I'm a
Well,
Laker. Like,
yeah, and just his give a damn quotient, whether you like him as a player or dislike him, his give a damn quotient is off the charts. And you combine that with the obvious early season pressure with what he is very aware of, like I said before, of his role in this team and what he represents on it. It's a lot. And hopefully they can kind of steer him to a happier and better place. Look, he could come out Friday against Phoenix, play a great game.
yeah, I mean, I
um
tweeted out during the game, only half kidding, at Cam Brothers. If there's still lingering doubts about whether Westbrook is comfortable with his new team and setting, he just picked up his first technical of the season in game one, like a foot slipping into its favorite shoe, because
yes.
Russ gets a lot of technicals. Laker fans who don't get to see him on a regular basis, you're going to notice this teed up a lot. So there was a part of me hoping, like, all right, you know what? The jitters are gone. He's comfortable enough in front of his new teammates, the new relationship, as it were, to get that technical be himself. But
He got one. Dwight got a flagrant one. I mean, like, certain things were just,
well, but Dwight,
like,
this is Dwight's third time with the team.
right.
Like, they,
He's
for
an old friend at this
well,
point.
just for better and for worse, we know what Dwight is.
Yeah. All right. So obviously lots more to talk about from Tuesday's game. We didn't really even get to the starting lineup and the way that Vogel went with DeAndre Jordan in there, how much center.
Told y'all,
Yeah, no,
told
and
y'all.
that was pretty. The writing was on the wall there as of a couple days ago, especially
Yeah, but
given
even
the
before
injuries.
that,
But Dwight played 13 minutes, Jordan played 13. So like, what are they doing up front? What can they do until guys get back? How much Avery Bradley might actually factor into the early season? All kinds of stuff
good lord,
that we
man.
can still talk about over the course of this week. Sirat Sohi from The Ringer is going to join us on Thursday night. Awesome, awesome NBA
For
writer and
Friday.
I'm sorry, you're right. For Friday's show, I should say. She's going to join us Thursday night for Friday's show. And yeah, so a lot of good stuff still to come just this week. And I'm excited.
Yeah.
It was an interesting game to watch. Wasn't fun for Lakers fans, but there was a lot going on. So if this is what the Lakers are going to be at the beginning of the year, we are going to have no shortage of stuff to talk about. So we will see everybody tomorrow. Thanks again for making us your first listen. Subscribe to Locked On Lakers on YouTube. See everybody tomorrow.